the really exciting part was, and at the time, it doesn't really happen as much now, but the products flew out the door. And now I had this other challenge of figuring out, you know how they say like something, it could be too good? Well, that's what happened.
Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Because now all these orders are coming in.
Hi, and welcome to Handbag Designer 101, the podcast with your host, Emily Blumenthal, handbag industry expert and the handbag fairy godmother. Each week, we uncover the stories behind the handbags we love, from the iconic brands and top designers to the creativity, craftsmanship, and culture that define the handbag world. Whether you're a designer, collector, or simply passionate about handbags, this is your front row seat to it all. Welcome, Dawn Del Russo from Live the Glamour, probably one of my favoriteest people in the whole wide world. Thank you for joining us on Handbag Designer 101, the podcast.
Thank you so much, Emily. I am so excited. I know everyone says that, but I really am.
No, I'm more excited. And for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I strongly suggest you do, because Dawn is probably one of the cutest people I've ever met and remains to stay the same cuteness, timeless and cuteness. I can't. I can't. Oh my goodness. So, Donnie, we have, just because I know your life story, because I've been fortunate enough to have you as a guest in my class, your story, and I want to drive this so this is beneficial for you and our listeners, is interesting. Not that everybody's story isn't, but, to go from having a retail store, like, oh my God, what was I doing, to becoming a buyer, to pivoting to a quote unquote influencer, and what's an influencer, to being on QVC and working with the biggest handbag brands, and then turning yourself into some sort of huge brand personality, and all of this. It's, to me, like, that is the ultimate flex of understanding the pivot, because you are good at it. And also recognizing how you don't need to be everything to everyone on every platform.
No, it's been, you said it perfectly, and it has been a pivot a few times. I think I didn't know that in the beginning stages of my career. I was young and thought my dream came true. I visualized a boutique. It was something I always wanted. I couldn't believe I was making it happen. And there it was, brick and mortar, bringing in designers. And it was a thrill and really a dream come true. And, obviously with any business, things shift, things change. And I had some opportunities to do some TV work, broadcast work, and I kind of leaned more into that. And that's that I had to make a choice between this dream come true boutique that I had, which was, let me tell you, it seems like it was easy, but at the time I was crying and devastated and thinking, like, how could I give up something I was so passionate about for this next maybe stage of my career, which I had no idea where it was going to go. I mean, potentially it could have just been a one-time thing and I gave up my boutique and didn't know where it was going. But I think that's what in business it really takes to be able to grow and change and trust the whole process of everything, and know that you have to be flexible. You have to be able to say, maybe this isn't right. Let me change it a little bit. And that's kind of how each thing happened. Even now, with the QVC stuff and all that I'm doing, I had to be okay with that shift and that change and that new direction, which has been exciting, to be honest, and different.
Well, because I know, if I'm not mistaken, you started off working at a hair salon.
I did.
Then, exactly. Gotta love Italians. That's the hookup. Amazing.
Yeah. And I got out of school, with a business degree. And, everyone, I mean, even now, young people probably think it, you have these big aspirations, like, oh, okay, I have a business degree. What am I going to do? I'm going to get this really cool, amazing job. And I spent the first few months from May till September saying, like, okay, it's not as easy to find a job. What do I do? And I went and worked for my cousin. He had an incredible salon and I managed it. And it really was, you don't know how these things are going to impact your life until you do trust it and you do it and you jump in, because someone could have easily been like, I'm not doing that, or there's got to be something else, or I have to do something in fashion because that's what I wanted. But I had my aunt who was there at the time, and she every day would give me these little tidbits of advice because she was really behind the business. So she was his mother behind the business, and she knew all these things about customers, about the products that they had in the salon, about how to run the salon, about time management. And I would sit there not realizing our little chats were really giving me insight into what I needed to do. And that has carried with me now, 20 years later, into what I do.
Right.
What
Right.
she's
It's crazy though, because you hit the nail on the head because so many people, when they start, not even so much their career, but when they have this notion of what they've wanted to do, and then they realize, okay, like I need to do something that's so not what I want in order for that to potentially be a gateway to get me where I'm going. Because after you go to college, especially for at least I can speak to our generation, we were empowered. We worked, we did this. It's like you finish this degree feeling like I've moved 50 mountains. Nobody else has. You know, when I graduate, everyone's going to be throwing jobs at me because I've written papers. I've done this, I've done that. And then you come and you're like, oh my God, I've got to wake up every day and go to a goddamn hair salon that my cousin and aunt are there. Like, what was the purpose? Like, I'm here now talking to people at lunch over hair dryers. Like, come on.
completely. Yeah. And you're like, it's not this, or doesn't feel like the glamorous world. And we came from a different time where I don't think nothing was, not to say things are handed now, but I think the expectation is that things are going to be handed to you. And I didn't grow up with that. I grew up in a
Neither.
family of entrepreneurs, but they were like, get out there and work and figure it out. My dad had a company, and he was not like, hey, sure, here it is. This is something easy to do. It's like,
Right,
no,
right, right.
figure it out and cry, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to struggle, and things aren't going to feel easy. And my dad was one of the first people that said to me, sort of like, I feel like how you are, but he said, you can give up. Go ahead. He said, give up, give it up. Don't, you don't have to do it. When I was starting my boutique, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Give up. He's like, you don't have to do it. Get rid of it. Go work for someone. He's like, you'll get paid. It'll be fine. You can get a job anywhere, and Starbucks, whatever it might be. And it's fine. And it's funny because when he said that to me, it made me so angry.
So angry.
I was so mad. I was
How
like,
dare you? How dare you?
and I was like, no, that's crazy. I'm doing this. But it put a fire underneath me. And I think that is another thing that kept me going and going and going and going. Because I was like, all right, so this isn't working. This is not happening. Or like, I don't put myself in the influencer category, but that came, I was way behind that curve. And I thought, I'm doing TV. I don't need to worry about influencer and doing social media. I'll do it here and there. And even that now is like, okay, well, how am I going to make this work? What am I going to do? And I'm not going to stop because there's so many, or because somebody's already doing this. So
Yeah. And so I believe your boutique was called Bella Dawn, just because I remember everything. How was it to, like, baptism by fire, learn buying? And where did you get the money from to buy? Like, was all this saved money? Did you sell your childhood bed? Like, where did all this come from?
I was still living at home when all my friends were going and getting cool apartments and Hoboken and, doing all this fun stuff. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to stay at home. So I didn't have a rent or anything like that. A lot of my friends were literally going to the city, getting these apartments and fun stuff. I was living at home, and it's funny now because people say it to me like, "Oh, you're still holding on to your communion money." And at the time, that's exactly what I was doing.
Amazing.
I've always been
That's
a
amazing.
big saver. To this day, I'm like that. I save a lot, and I always have. I'm afraid of credit card debt and all that stuff. So I did save a lot. I had about $10,000 that I was able to start with, and I threw myself into it. I had no idea about buying. I had
Oh
none.
my
I did
God.
not learn it in college, and I went to trade shows, and people were talking to me, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna do a 2.2 markup? And I just said, "Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's what I'm doing." And then let me tell you, at the time, this is like 2004. We
Uh-huh.
have like we had the internet, but we weren't like
Yeah,
Googling.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it wasn't so simple. It
Yeah.
was like work. And I have some of my old notebooks of research that I was doing. I would spend hours just trying to figure out what people were talking about. You know,
Mhm. When you come home, you're like 2.2 markup. What do I? And the thing is about markup and coming from Garmento offspring, my dad, and I will never forget this because retail math is still not my strength. It's one of those things that he said that so many businesses fail because they don't know how to do the basics of these kinds of mark up, mark down, mark on, all of this. It's just pretty wild. So to say like, okay, do I double it? And it's like nowadays for those who don't even know, like when you go to a restaurant, how to actually give the math for the tip.
right.
And
Yeah.
how the tip was 15% when we grew up. And
Right.
now, God forbid, it's 20, 25, and 30, and how they do the math. So nobody, like, we had to figure all that out. Like,
All of
how
it.
do you do 15%? Like, what? And people like
And
double the
we,
tax, and you're like, no, 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 but that's not 15%. Like, what's 15%? So when someone's telling you 2.2 and you got your communion money, and you're like, holy shit, like, I guess, sure, absolutely.
I had no idea. When I was talking to these people, I had no idea. And I think it's a good trait that I don't know if it's learned anymore to do that or to just be bold enough to say, like, I'm going to figure it out, but be willing to learn too. Like, I was always willing to learn from people. I asked a ton of, I still ask a ton of questions
Yeah,
to this
same.
day. Like, I'm asking, like, what do you mean? What is that? What do I do? And I think those questions, even on, I'd go on sets and I'd bring clothing, styling clothing, and a photographer was setting up like a lighting and they'd put this gel over the light in a different color. And I was like, oh, what do you mean a gel? What is that? What does that mean? What are you doing? And I didn't need to know that, but it
Right.
helped because the next time you went on something, you kind of knew already what they were doing and maybe could help in another.
You're like, where's your gel? Where's your goddamn color gel? What's
Yes,
wrong with you? What kind of photographer are you? Huh?
exactly,
Huh? Huh?
exactly,
Yeah.
so you don't realize how you can ask questions in other industries or in other parts, how they're gonna all cross over and help you, get better at what you do.
When you had your store, did you accept that that was going to be your life 24/7? Because hiring your first employee is pretty traumatizing. And then you're like, do I trust them? Do I not trust them? Do I need to be there? Do I not need to be there? I can never ever go on vacation. Do I deserve to go on vacation?
So
How did you cope with all that? Because I know all of this like carries over to where you are now.
it does. I was there 24/7. I did not care about anything. Friends were getting married, wedding showers, things were happening. And I was like, no, my boutique's open. My boutique's open. I'm here. The only day that I was closed was on Mondays. That was the only day, which I have to say somewhat still carries over into my life now, even though I don't have a boutique, is like Mondays are still my day that like I'll do work, but I still keep that like as a day of like what I need to do versus, other stuff, even though I'm, constantly on.
Isn't that the day that hair salons are closed too?
It is, which probably carried over from that, ironically. But yeah,
Oh my God.
I was
It all goes
open.
back to the hair
It
salon.
does. It sets the pattern. But I loved it. I loved it so much that I didn't care that I had to be there all the time. And I was so, so, so scared to leave it. I remember one of the first people was a really good friend of mine, Jackie. She came and worked and would work for me here and there when I really, really couldn't be there. I mean, like an hour or two, never like a full day, maybe towards like the third or fourth year. But it was so hard to trust somebody because one, they're working with your customers. Two, they have to know the product. They're taking credit cards and money and closing at the time. Like it's to think about it, the credit card processing was so different than it is today. And you had to close out. And if they didn't, that would mess up everything, like your accounting. And so it's like, well, did you close out? And there were times when I went back there at 11 o'clock at night to make sure the credit card machine was closed. So the next day, everything was good to go.
Because then all the numbers would be off.
Yes, everything would be off. And it was hard to start the next day. So it was scary. And then my first employee that I hired was actually a store owner 2 doors down, his sister. We were really good friends. We became really good friends because he owned a barbershop, and his sister had just had her first or second baby, and she wanted a part-time job. She didn't want to do anything too much, and she lived really close nearby. And so she worked out as my first employee, which was scary and amazing, and paying someone. And like, now you have this responsibility to somebody else because they're relying on you to, basically be an income for them. So that was terrifying. And of course, there's a million ups and downs and things that happen internally that make, the business run. So that was scary. I think that hiring someone was something that always, like, from that time on, was something that I was always a little scared to do, because when I did close my boutique, having to tell somebody you're closing is like terrifying. And
oh my God. Yeah, it's a sign of failure in your mind.
It is completely. And I think for that whole old saying of like, everybody who's successful or runs a business, they have to go through failures. And at the time, I would never want to admit that at all. But now it's like the greatest thing I have because of everyone I work with and all the knowledge I gained from it. So it's crazy. Really.
If you ever wanted to start a handbag line and didn't know where to start, this is for you.
Living proof that independent designers can make it big.
Emily Blumenthal is one prime example.
If you had dreams of becoming a handbag designer and didn't know where to start, this is for you. If you have a handbag brand and are in need of strategy and direction, this is for you. I'm Emily Blumenthal, handbag fairy godmother and handbag designer expert, and this is Handbag Designer 101, the masterclass. Over the next 10 classes, I will break down everything you need to know how to make, market, and manufacture a handbag. Broken down for you that you'll not only skip steps in that handbag building process, but also save money in that learning curve. For the past 20 years, I've been teaching at the top fashion universities in New York City, created the Handbag Awards, and also the Handbag Designer 101 podcast. I'm going to show you like I have countless brands, from sketch to sample to shelf, whether you're just starting out and don't know where to begin, or even if you have a handbag line and just need some strategic direction, the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass is just for you. So let's get started, and you will be the creator of the next it bag. Join me, Emily Blumenthal, with the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass.
I mean, because if I remember the story correctly, did you start approaching local TV channels, or it just kind of organically happened that you started doing outreach and then you're like, oh, I'm good at this. Oh, I can talk about retail trends. Oh, I can talk about more than just my store. I am my own brand beyond Bella Dawn.
Exactly. So I had an amazing opportunity. Fox Good Day New York came to me because of a product that I had in the store. It was these bubble bands, they were called, and they were bands that you would wear. It was kind of like Skims, somehow like Skims are today. And it would like enhance your body, make you look good in jeans. Anyway, they were these bands that I carried from a small business, a woman business-owned company out in the Midwest, which was, I didn't even realize my impact on something like this, because it was just, I thought it was a cool product to sell. Fox Good Day New York came and they called and they said, can we come and do a segment on this? And I was like, what? I never heard,
what's a segment? Yeah. Like, what do I do? The whole thing.
And again, learning experience. I said yes. I didn't know anything about a segment or what that meant, but I figured it out. They came, they said, we're going to come to your boutique. We're going to shoot this. I thought it was going to be this big, huge production team of like cameras and lights and 20 people.
Yeah, it's like two people with like a tripod and a light, if that.
It's 2 people. It's maybe a half hour.
Go on the light.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
My family was excited. Everyone was there. Like, everyone had to come and see this segment. We had food cake.
Yeah, of course. You need to have, like, we got to feed you. I thought this was it. And like, they're trying to be in and out in like an hour.
In and out. I can't even imagine what they were thinking because
You're
now
like, I've got the meats. I've got meats. Come on. My mom went and got it from the good place. We got meats. What's wrong?
exactly. And it's really funny to think about now. And they came in, they filmed, it was quick. We sat down, they set it up. It was in and out, 45 minutes maybe. And we were just all like, oh, okay. And when's it gonna air? And they don't
Right.
air. But that honestly was probably the beginning. Well, it was the beginning that I got that first taste of broadcast, and I was like, "This is interesting." Oh,
You were like,
yeah.
hey, I'm good.
I'm like, this is fun. I could do this. And the really exciting part was, and at the time, it doesn't really happen as much now, but the products flew out the door. And now I had this other challenge of figuring out, how they say like something, it could be too good. Well, that's what happened.
Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Because now all these orders are coming in. I have somewhat of a website in place, but no way for them, no e-commerce for them to order. So I'm getting emails telling me we want to.
How can I ship this and da-da-da-da.
Yeah. So now logistically, I have to figure out my shipping. Goes back to pricing. So are you going to totally price yourself out? Because now you don't have you didn't research how it's the cost effectiveness of shipping. So I'm just shipping stuff like regular. I remember it was like $7.99 to ship United Postal Service or whatever. And then the brand had to have enough. So now they're sending them to me to get them out the door. It was the whole process was wild to see how it went. And I really, at the time, I wish I had more e-commerce set up because I could have probably sold so many more, but it was a good learning experience. And then
there's no way you would have known.
I wouldn't
No
have.
way.
There was I was so fresh to this whole
Yeah.
side of things. And I wish today it was like that because TV today doesn't sell product like that at all. You're lucky if you sell one today. You can go on national TV to a 2 million people audience and it does not have that impact.
No, after Sex in the City, it was like
you had it. Yeah,
I did. There has been no other, I think, cultural sell-through zeitgeist show other than Sex in the City. I mean, after that, there were so many like attempts.
Yeah,
but there, especially during your time of having your boutique, like that was the time of boutiques. That was the time of small stores. And I genuinely think that using bookstores as my case study, because bookstores are packed now, that people are going back to see, feel, touch.
Yes.
That's why I believe boutiques are doing better than actual retail, because people want that personalized attention. They want to know that you can buy it from me. Like either I'm going to buy it from you or I'm going to buy it online. I'm absolutely not shopping someplace else to get it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole way. Like these boutiques are essentially curators for you.
No, it's true. It's funny that you bring that. I don't even know if you might know, but right now I'm actually, for the last 3 years, there's a spa with a boutique that I've been buying and curating for.
No.
Because, yeah. So they're in New Jersey. They're a huge, like one of the biggest spas in New Jersey, Di Pasquale. And I've known them for years. And we tested it out. The owner was like, come, this is like about 3 years ago. He said, you're not going to commit a lot of time. He's like, I know you've had a boutique. And it's full circle for me because I don't have to be there. I go there once a week to curate it. I buy, I'm able to do all the buying basically virtually.
And not need to worry about like your money.
No, exactly. I have no overhead. I just, I don't have any of that, but I get a little bit of what I always loved came back to me for doing this. But to your point, I see how incredible it is for people to come and actually pick an item up and look at it, and they're loving it. And if I had this then, I don't even know. I can't even imagine, because it's just been growing. In the last 3 years, it's grown so much, and they want the experience. They want to sit down and smell the candle. They want to touch the clothing. They want to put the necklace on and see how it looks. And I think we were missing that so much. It's like, but the boutiques can do that more than, big box stores can.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And actually, you pivoted into being a personality per se. And I guess, especially from a brand perspective, you've had this retail experience, you know how to buy, you have a sense of like retail trends, but not on a large scale, but on a molecular level. And now you're like, okay, I'm going to give all that up. I'm going to become an influencer, but I don't want to be considered an influencer. I want to be the person that people pay to promote their product, as opposed to, there's so many facets of that. Like, I don't want to be called a brand ambassador because that's not who I am. So how are you able to like mentally say, okay, I can live off of this? Because you still have to procure clients. You still have deliverables. You still have all that same crap that you would in a store.
I really stayed true to myself as much as I could. One, with saying I'm only, the big brands, they come in and they reach out fast, like they're ready to work with you. They have big budgets. And for me, I've worked with Bloomingdale's. I've worked with some of the bigger ones in different capacities, but there's a soft spot in me from having a boutique to working with like these brands that are trying to get out there or trying to make a name for themselves. And I love working with some of the bigger, more established brands as well. But I think for me, that's what fills that gap, is where I know that I'm consulting and I'm bringing some of these unknowns to a new broadcast platform or to some of my platforms on social media. And it's been so fulfilling in that I can do that and get paid to do that. And by balancing out, I'm doing the QVC, and QVC is not something I ever really thought that I would do. And the reason why I said yes to it was because, two very well-known Mark Fisher and Rebecca Minkoff brands are two brands that I 100% can stand behind. The Mark Fisher shoes are shoes I have no problem putting on my feet. I will wear, I'll talk about forever. Rebecca Minkoff, you've spoken to her. She's amazing as a person, and her brands have been through the years a staple in people's wardrobes. So having those big brands that kind of allow me to do the work for them, but then I can still promote and work with these other brands that don't have as big of a budget, but still can pay in some way, has really made it possible for me to do both. And then also use that as from an influencer point of view as well on my channels.
So this is so all over the place, but it isn't, because I'm so into this conversation. Like, I could honestly talk to you for 800 million hours. So, you become Dawn Del Russo brand, and your brand was still called Bella Dawn, like your boutique. How are you able to say, because I think what a lot of brand owners and designers seem to think, especially in the realm of TikTok, that they need to be aces on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. And how are you, because I know that's not your jam. Because you can't be the best at everything, and that's not who your core customer and followers are. How are you as a brand owner, as yourself, being your own best publicist, how are you able to recognize that, okay, I'm going to get really good at just this one, and I'm not going to stress about the others? Because I'm sure you still try, but then you're what the hell am I doing?
Totally. Every single day. And every day I'm figuring out and watching, like all these younger girls that I just have this natural talent for it. I think because they were raised around social media versus, we weren't. So we don't. It's funny because I look at pictures even that I take now, or the way we hold a camera or what we do, it is so different. It is just so different because we didn't come into, I was in my 20s, mid 30s when social media really was a thing. So I don't take a picture aesthetically the way these younger people do that looks amazing in one take. I sit down and I'm like, so tell me, are these people taking 1,000 pictures and getting that one aesthetic one? Or are they just like, I don't know. But I said, I'm not going to beat myself up. I do my best to learn and to understand and to see different perspectives and to understand, maybe the little tiny shifts that are happening, or noticing on Instagram that there's, less people holding a camera and talking it this way and more people being aesthetically taking a picture and letting you figure out what's going on in the picture.
Right.
So, it's things like that that I think it's picking up on and just paying attention and not trying to be that. I'm not going to be that. I'm going to do my best to be as true and authentic to myself that I can be. And even working with brands, I tell brands that immediately. I'm like, listen, if you're going to give me this like full rundown of exactly how you want something to be or something said, I may not be the person for you, because I'm going to talk about it the way I talk about it. And I'm not going to hold a product up and say, use this.
Have you had to say to brands, like, because it's hard when someone's going to give you money and for you to be authentic and being like, this isn't going to work. I can't do what you need me to do to be the best version of the publicist that you want me to be for your brand.
Yeah, I have. And that's hard. It's really, really hard when the money is there. And, I talk to my family. I'm like, am I crazy? Like, am I crazy for saying no to this? Like, is that nuts? And sometimes they're like, yeah, you are crazy. But I feel like for some reason, every time and it's so cliche, you say no to something else does come in. And it really does, because I had an opportunity, like just with QVC before what I'm doing now. And it wasn't with a brand that I really felt comfortable with. And I said no. And I was like, that was probably a huge mistake. And now I'm here with two that I love. And I think you really have to know yourself. Like, you have to know yourself, who you are, what you stand for, and how you're going to do things, and what are your, maybe not like 10 years from now, but what are your next steps in the next few years to see what direction you're going to go and how you're going to get there and with who.
Yeah. So right now, what are you most known for? You go on QVC, you represent Mark Fisher for footwear, you do Rebecca Minkoff for handbags, you have your podcast. Why am I drawing a blank on it?
No, Live the Glamour.
Live the Glamour, right. So what else makes Dawn, and what brands should approach you for what you want to do?
So I am Live the Glamour. It's my blog, it's the podcast, and that's what it's like a culmination of everything I've learned and being on all these podcasts and broadcast networks and all the things that I've done. I finally said, okay, it's time for me to create all of this on my own site. And I think that's what's really, it's helped me, because it's made me have more of a solid direction with all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
I sit down and I work on it, and I'm able to say, like, the brands that are on there now, I love talking about them, and I know that they're ones that I really believe in, and I can do it with freedom, without someone saying, like, that price is too high, we can't talk about that. That doesn't belong, that's not for our customer. So for me, Live the Glamour is, and I'm working on a trademark for it, because I believe in it, and I know that behind it there's a lot more. It's something that's really creating, I think in the future it's going to create a lot more than I even can recognize right now. And so for me, that's just the direction that I'm really going in, and I'm just trusting that it's right. And if I can be, to a brand, when I sit down and I talk to a brand and I give them the time, like, it's not just like, hi, what are you going to pay me? But I actually get to know them and learn who they are and build relationships. And that's always been my thing, is like, how do I, I've known you for years. And I think that things come up and you don't know how they're going to come up, or you don't know how you're going to work together. And so I'm not sitting down saying, like, well, where's the money? What are you paying me? I think let's build the relationship, and then so much more will come out of it.
Oh my God, Donnie, you're my most favorite person to talk to. I just want to have you come back just so we can talk and record it, because I think people are lucky to hear our conversations. How can people find you, follow you, learn more about the great Dawn Del Russo?
I feel the same about you. I admire all of your work, and you've just always been a person that I look at and say, like, just, wow, you're making things happen.
Oh my God.
Constantly.
She's tired, but yeah.
Well, you really are. I'm on all social media at Dawn Del Russo. So it's just my name. It's nice and easy. And then at Live the Glamour is my blog, my YouTube, and also on social media. So they're both pretty simple.
And it's Dawn DEL space RU. I'm watching you spell it with me. RUSSO. Dawn Del Russo, the great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Emily, so much. This was amazing.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review and follow us on every single platform at Handbag Designer. Thanks so much. See you next time.